Good evening and welcome to NTD UK News. I'm Stuart Lees and here are today's top stories. Tens of thousands marched against lockdowns in central London over the weekend. A minister says government departments should be swept for cameras and bugs following leaked footage of former Health Secretary Matt Hancock. And Wimbledon returns in classic British fashion as rain delays start of play. We're bringing you the latest from the All England Tennis Club. Tens of thousands took to the streets in London over the weekend to protest against lockdowns and vaccine passports. NTD's Jen Worrell asked some of the protesters why they were there.
Starting from Hyde Park, tens of thousands protest in London. Among the crowds, a British band, Right Said Fred, who we caught up with before the protest took off.
So what brings you here to this protest?
Well, we started coming last year. I think May or July was our first march. We initially came out of curiosity because we just thought something felt very wrong. The disproportionate response made no sense, in our opinion. We're not scholars or anything, just a gut feeling. And we've come to every march since. And the growth in numbers is just remarkable.
I've had loads of vaccines in my life. I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I'm just cautious with regards to this particular vaccine.
Yep.
That's all. People deserve to be told the truth. It's really, really simple. And you only have to go on the socials and realise, I don't believe everything, but there is a whole load of differing medical opinion out there about vaccines and about lockdowns, everything else. Let's hear it.
If you want to take part in a vaccine trial, then that's entirely your business. Understand what every vaccine contains and maybe look at the side effects. But if you think that's the way for you, then have it. But to try and divide the country between vaccinated and unvaccinated is just abhorrent. It's just another attempt at division. So in terms of any shows, we wouldn't do any show that involves segregation.
We also met with former model Leilani Dowding, who tells us why she's here.
And I'm here because I want to rally for freedom, so freedom of personal choice and then personal freedom to be able to, stop these restrictions, stop mandatory masks, stop coercing and manipulating people who don't want the vaccine to have the vaccine, and to stop lockdowns from ever happening again, really, because, a lot of people say that this is going to be the end. But I think now the government have got used to locking us down when they want. It could be the way forward in the future.
People at these protests are often branded as conspiracy theorists or anti-vaxxers in media reports, but the marches actually attract a wide range of people.
It's the first protest march I've been on. I'm double jabbed. I've had COVID. I want my freedoms back. And I think that's just how everyone here feels. A whole range of opinion across the spectrum, people with different backgrounds, different parts of the country, all wanting different things. But other than they want to be able to live their normal lives again. They've done everything right. They've obeyed all the rules and they would like their freedoms back. And they want to return to the old normal. And I have a feeling that unless we demand it, we're not going to get it back. And it's time for people to speak up. And that's why I'm here.
There's evidence that Beijing has influenced countries to go into lockdown. You might remember Professor Neil Ferguson's Times interview when he said he didn't think Europe could get away with lockdowns because China is a communist one-party state.
I think what's really terrifying is a quote from Professor Neil Ferguson of Imperial College, who has led a lot of the absolutely hopelessly inaccurate modelling that led us into first lockdown, second and third. And he said we never thought we'd get away with it until China did it and then Italy did it. I think the idea that Western democracies would go against all established pandemic planning and guidance to follow what a totalitarian police state has done, I think is terrifying that they did that, and it's terrifying that after they knew how much damage it was doing, not just to the health of the nation, people not treated for cancer, the mental health problems we've seen, but to the social fabric, to the values that we hold dear in a democracy about freedom and about our choices to live our own lives without interference from the state. Once they knew that damage, to carry on doing it, I think we are in borderline criminal territory here. I don't think that's going too far.
Also marching at the rally for the first time was Us for Them, who campaigned to put children first in policy making.
Just worried about the future for the children, really, because they're not being prioritised at all. And at the moment, kids are being kept out of education for multiple periods of time due to isolating not because they're sick, they're perfectly healthy, but because somebody might have tested positive. And when we see that last week a footballer tests positive and the rest of his team go and play, what are we saying to our children? We're keeping their whole class, their whole bubble out, and yet, this is their education. This is much more important than a football match.
The Prime Minister says England is on course to lift restrictions fully on July the 19th. An independent public inquiry into the government's handling of the pandemic is due to be held next spring. Jane Werrell, NTD News, London.
To watch longer versions of these interviews, check out our YouTube channel in the coming days. Former Chancellor Sajid Javid has replaced Matt Hancock as Health Secretary. He says lifting lockdown restrictions as soon as possible is his absolute priority, and there will be no going back once it's done. NTD's El Rhodes has this report.
Former Chancellor Sajid Javid has been appointed as Health Secretary following Matt Hancock's resignation. During his visit to St Thomas's Hospital on Monday, Javid says his priority is to oversee a return to normal after the COVID-19 pandemic.
First, as I said, I want to see the restrictions lifted and life going back to normal as quickly as possible. And that's right here and now. That is my absolute priority. I want to see those restrictions lifted as soon as we can, as quickly as possible.
And indicated the move would be final.
Irreversible is...
It's going to be irreversible. There's no going back.
His predecessor, Matt Hancock, quit on Saturday after he was caught kissing and embracing an aide in his office last month. He was criticised for breaking social distancing restrictions while calling for others to follow the rules.
I understand the enormous sacrifices that everybody in this country has made, that you have made, and those of us who make these rules have got to stick by them, and that's why I've got to resign.
Javid is considered to be more in the so-called hawks camp of cabinet opinion over the approach to coronavirus, alongside Chancellor Rishi Sunak. His return makes lockdown sceptic MPs hopeful for a break from the current approach and a swift lifting of restrictions. He quit as Chancellor in February last year after clashing with the Prime Minister's former chief advisor, Dominic Cummings. Earl Rhodes, NTD News.
Leaked footage of Matt Hancock in an embrace with an aide has left Whitehall concerned over how the footage was recorded and how it got into the hands of the media. NTD's Eddie Aiken brings us more on this.
Leaked footage of former Health Secretary Matt Hancock embracing an aide in his office was passed to the media. This has made ministers cautious about the security of their own offices. Justice Secretary Robert Buckland says government departments should be swept for cameras and recording devices.
I know there's CCTV in the building for obvious security reasons, but I'm sure that many of my colleagues will be asking the same question and making sure that the offices are swept, just in case there are unauthorised devices in there that could be a national security breach.
The Times reports the camera filming Hancock in his office was hidden in a smoke detector. Hancock says he had no idea there was a camera recording him. His successor, Sajid Javid, says the camera has been disabled by the Department of Health and the government is investigating the incident.
I don't think, as a general rule, there should be cameras in the Secretary of State's office. I've never known that in the other 5 departments that I've run, and I'm not really sure why there was one here, but I feel there'll be more to this as the whole incident is investigated.
A former senior military intelligence officer says the signs point towards a disaffected individual being responsible for the leak.
The key here is someone has somehow or other got a copy of that video. That person is not known to the security people within the Department of Health and Social Care or across Whitehall, and that person is still disaffected and still may have more material.
He warns the disaffected insider could become a long-term threat.
They'll know that they're in trouble and they could be gathering other material to try and negotiate their way out of the level of trouble that they're in.
Northern Ireland Secretary Brandon Lewis says the Department of Health will seek to find out how the footage became public. The Times also reports that some ministers fear foreign governments could obtain information from their private meetings. Eddie Aitken, NTD News.
Secret documents from the Ministry of Defense containing details of Biden's China strategy and the incident between a British warship and Russian forces have reportedly been found at a bus stop. NTD's Joy Dugid brings us the details.
Over 50 pages of classified documents from the Ministry of Defence have reportedly been found at a bus stop in southern England, with notes in them about the NATO withdrawal from Afghanistan, US President Joe Biden's China strategy, and discussion over how Russia would react to the British warship that sailed near Crimea last week, sparking an incident with Russian forces. That's according to the BBC, which says it's seen the documents. The papers are said to have been found by a member of the public in a soggy heap last Tuesday, a day before the warship incident. Russia said on Wednesday it had fired warning shots and dropped bombs in the path of the ship to chase it out of what it says are its territorial waters, but which the Western world says belongs to Ukraine. Britain rejected Russia's account of the incident. It confirmed the destroyer had sailed through what it said were Ukrainian waters, describing its path as innocent passage in accordance with international law of the sea. The BBC says the documents suggested the ship's mission was conducted in the expectation that Russia might respond aggressively. The Ministry of Defence said the employee concerned reported the loss of the sensitive documents at the time, but declined to comment further, saying it would be inappropriate. Joy Dugid, NTD News.
Wimbledon Grand Slam tennis is back after a year out because of the pandemic. It comes with changes for all as the queues for tickets are gone and players stay in London hotels. But one thing is the same as ever, rain is forecast. NTD's Neil Woodrow is at the All England Club.
Here at the Wimbledon Grand Slam event in southwest London, fans are excited, looking forward to some top tennis action and cheering on their favourites, with fingers crossed for the weather. On the opening Monday of the 134th Wimbledon Championships, grey clouds hang over the All England Club. In a year of changes, one Wimbledon tradition remains intact, with rain delaying play on the outside courts. The Championships 2021 are one of the government's large-scale pilot events. Centre Court starts at 50% capacity, but will embrace 100% come the finals. But COVID-19 protocols mean this year's tournament will look and feel a little different. Proof of vaccination status must be shown, and there will be no iconic queue for daily entry. Henman Hill will be sparsely populated, and fans will not be bumping into famous players strolling to the grounds from plush rentals in the village. They stay instead in central London hotels this year to minimise risks. But precautions have not helped British #1 Johanna Konta. Disappointingly for her and her fans, she was forced to withdraw on the eve of the tournament and starts a 10-day quarantine. Konta's withdrawal is a huge blow to the 30-year-old who won the Nottingham title in the build-up to Wimbledon. Despite the weather, those that have made the trip are full of expectation.
So excited, we can't believe we're here. We've been looking forward to it for so long.
I know.
And
we managed to get it as like a group of mates, so there's how many, 5, 6 of us here today, so yeah, really excited.
This gentleman plays tennis 3 times a week at his club.
You know, obviously I can't relate so much to them as I'm just a club player, but I mean it's just wonderful to see them, you know, moving around and hitting the ball as well as they do. It's just they're entertainers, you know, and that's what we come here to see, is to be entertained. So we're looking forward to it, yeah.
In the opening game on centre court, British teenager Jack Draper had his hands full in his Grand Slam debut. He got the crowd going, though, as he took the opening set against defending champion Novak Djokovic. Draper's fearless hitting stunned Djokovic at first, but the champ soon took control and won through in 4 sets. For British fans, all eyes will be on Andy Murray once again, giving him all the support they can muster. The former world #1 has not played a singles match at the All England Club since a quarter-final defeat in 2017. The investment in roofs over centre court and court #1 in recent years means the unpredictable weather is less likely to affect the schedule. Neil Woodrow, NTD News, Wimbledon, London.
British tourists are facing more restrictions when travelling overseas as concerns grow over the spread of the Indian variant in Britain. NTD's Joy Dugid brings us this report.
Portugal, Spain, Malta and Hong Kong have announced new restrictions on UK tourists. The Portuguese government imposed a mandatory 14-day quarantine requirement on arrivals from the UK who are not fully vaccinated. Malta, which will be added to the green list on Wednesday, says it will only permit fully vaccinated UK visitors to enter the country. Spain is also introducing new restrictions on UK visitors to the Balearic Islands, which include Ibiza and Mallorca. Travellers who are not fully vaccinated must produce a recent negative PCR test. Hong Kong has put the UK on its very high risk list, meaning it has banned UK arrivals unless the person is a Hong Kong resident or a spouse or child of a resident. The territory has also announced a ban on direct flights from the UK from Thursday. Joy Duguid, NTD News.
A senior journalist of the now closed pro-democracy newspaper Apple Daily was arrested at Hong Kong airport on Sunday night. He was trying to leave the region for the United Kingdom. NTD's foreign affairs correspondent Sharon Xu has more on this.
Hong Kong public broadcaster RTHK reported Monday that an editor and columnist at the Daily, Wai-kong, was arrested on a suspected national security offence. According to South China Morning Post, the Hong Kong police said that a 57-year-old man was arrested at the airport for conspiring to collude with foreign countries or foreign forces to endanger national security. The police typically do not identify the individual. Hong Kong pro-democracy newspaper Apple Daily printed its final copy last Thursday. It was forced to close when authorities froze company assets and detained its top executives, including the editor-in-chief. The crackdown on Apple Daily seems to follow an instruction in March by the director of China's Hong Kong and Macau Affairs Office, Xia Baolong. He said the principle of Chinese regime patriots governing Hong Kong should be extended from public officials to the judiciary, the education sector, and the media. Sharon Xu, NTD News.
Still to come, investigators are looking into the motives of a Somali immigrant suspected of fatally stabbing 3 people in Bavaria. Find out more after the break. Thank you for watching our daily news show on YouTube. You can also watch our other programming on channel 190 on Sky TV or on Freeview via channel box on channel 271. In the meantime though, please give this video a like and hit subscribe to our channel. Have a good day.